Right, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, building up the bike from scratch, something we see in the comments all the time. Now, the eagle-eyed of you, first up, will notice it's now got some logos on it. That's thanks to the folks at Cyclistic who did in fact send some stickers in because they thought it looked a bit plain and, well, simple. Now, there's no specific order that the components have to be fitted on, but having built up several hundred bikes from scratch, this is my preferred way. What I am going to tell you though is that it's ultra important to follow any manufacturer's recommended torque settings because parts, well, they're not indestructible. Let's get on with it. Right, so I'm going to be using a work stand for this obviously, and you'll notice that I'm using the old seat post in there. The reason being, I don't want to put the freshly new one in there because, well, they do have a tendency just to get a little bit scratched up sometimes when you put them inside of a frame. So that will be probably the last component I actually fit onto this bike. The first thing I'm going to do is actually fit that bottom bracket in there. So again, like I said at the start, it's important to follow the manufacturer's recommended torque settings. For one of these Holotech 2, Shimano recommend in between 35 and 49 Newton meters. So I'm going to use 40 Newton meters. It's something I've always done. So again, I am sticking within the limits. I'm going to coat the threads of the bottom bracket with some anti-seize compound. The reason being, I don't want these two aluminium components to get stuck with one another. Then a great little tip that I'm going to do too is actually get a little bit of plastic. This is actually the packaging of this bottom bracket, and put it over the cups before I put the tool on it. That way, any of this nice fancy anodizing is going to remain nice and intact there too. Now, when you put it into the shell, you want to make sure that you can just tighten it up with your hands. There we are, that's nice and easy. It's going to go in there ever so well. So I know that that thread is not going to be cross-threaded. I can tighten that nearly all the way, in fact, with my hand. Before doing the finishing touches with the torque wrench. Right, next up is the cable guide, which goes underneath the bottom bracket shell on this bike. Now, this is ultra important to remember to grease up these screws. So use any type of grease because anything is better than nothing in this situation. I'm going to be using anti-seize because I really don't want this bolt to get stuck in there at any time because obviously this area of the bike is so open to abuse from all sorts of road debris. So you want to make sure that the angle of this cable guide comes up suitable so that the front derailleur cable can pop up in between the bridge here on the chain stays and up to where the front mech is going to be placed. Right, next up is to fit the chain set into the bottom bracket. As you can see, there's already some grease inside of there, and that's actually my favourite type of grease. I've got some of it. It's pretty expensive, so I'm going to leave it in there and not add anything else into the mix. However, if you've not got any grease in there, I would add some in there so it just helps the spindle go in a little bit easier. So it's simply a case pushing it in, and then they are obviously interference fit, so you do need to give it gentle tap like so, and it will pop out the other side. As you can see there on my fingers, I've got some little bits of grease still left over. A few more hits, and it's good. Right, now time to fit the left-hand crank, and this can be a little bit confusing sometimes because not all setups are the same. But in the case of this Shimano one, well, as you can see, we've got a left-hand crank here that's got two pinch bolts and a little plastic tab. Now these pinch bolts, they've got to be tightened up to between 12 and 14 Newton meters, and that little tab too has to be pushed down. It's almost like a secondary safety device to stop the crank falling off if there was a problem. And this little preload bolt here actually pushes the crank onto the actual bottom bracket spindle. So first up, we're going to line up the crank. There's only actually one place where it can really fit on, and then put this little plastic bolt in place. Now, of course, that's got a funny little head on it too. So you need to use the special tool for it, one of these, and then you simply tighten it up. Now this has got a really small torque setting. I can't remember what it is. It's like 1.2 Newton meters or something. So really you want it just finger tight. Just so it pushes the crank on like so. Now it's just a case of tightening up these bolts. You've got to do them evenly, so you don't want to crank up one of them all the way to 14 Newton meters and forget about the other. You want to just work them in pairs opposite one another. If anyone's ever done the head gasket on a car, you will know exactly about this. And before doing the finishing touches, I always like to just pop that down into place before. There we are, there's one. And there's the other. Right, time to install now the fork crown. One of the jobs which, when you see a professional mechanic doing, you're often filled with fear because it looks like they're doing it completely wrong. But it's an interference fit product that sits down there on the top of the forks in order for the headset bearings to mate onto it, so you've got nice smooth steering. But the way it's done is it's placed on like so. As you can see, it won't go all the way down, so it means I've got to use this, the Crown Race installer. Now loads of you ask actually in the comments, what on earth are those big tools for in the background? Well, it's for this. Sorted. Time to fit the headset cups into the head tube. Again, I'm just going to cover the inside of the head tube here with a little bit of grease, just so the cups go in nice and smoothly, as well as, well, hopefully if we ever have to replace it, they can pop out nice and easily too. Time to put the headset cups into the head tube, and another big tool is going to be used here, and it's amazing that all these big tools generally aren't used that much anymore because so many components are simply dropped in on headsets, for instance, and bottom brackets, well, they're press fit generally these days, but it's important just to put these in. You can get them slightly in there, just like so, before tightening them in with the big old headset press. You want to make sure they're perfectly square so you're not going to overlise the head tube in any way at all when you're trying to push them in. They look good to me. Time to fit the fork into the head tube, and what I'm going to do is just put again a little dab of grease on the surface of both sets of bearings. They are sealed ones, but it is just going to stop any water from ingressing inside and doing any damage. Likewise here on the fork crown, I will do exactly the same. Despite the, well, sort of almost rusty-like appearance, this is still perfectly okay, and it's great that I could reuse this headset because it's an old 1-inch diameter, so I didn't have to go out and buy a new one. Right, time to fit the actual fork in. Now I've done the headset greasing. Just goes through like so. And I've got this little split ring here, as you can see, a little split there. Look at that. And I'll just slide that down so it sits within the top of the bearing race there, which means that I can apply some pressure via the actual stem to keep it in place. And if you're wondering what this little bit of blue pipe lagging is doing, you're going to find out just a couple of seconds. Putting on the top cap of the actual headset. Then I'll put a few spacers on, like so. And at this point, what I'm going to do is just wipe away any little bits of grease that we don't need there right now, and put on my handlebar and stem setup. The reason being, it's going to hold it in place, and the reason I've got that pipe lagging on there, so that if these bars do in fact swing around, they're not going to bash any paintwork off of the top tube. So I'm not going to actually adjust the headset just yet. All I'm going to do is just clamp up the bolts a little bit just so they're nicely in position. Time now to fit the rear derailleur on. Now again, I'm just going to put a little bit of grease inside of the threads there just to make sure that it's not going to get stuck in there, because all of these components, they are susceptible to quite a lot of abuse from the roads and debris that comes up from them. So just a tab of grease here on the thread, that's enough, and that'll work its way around. Now the torque setting for this is between 8 and 10 Newton meters. So again, I'm sticking to that. You want to make sure that the B tension adjustment screw here on the back sits in behind this little lip here on the actual rear derailleur hanger. Okay, and if in doubt, if you're not sure about the threads, if it's difficult to turn stop immediately. This one's nice and easy. Threading in like a dream. There we are. Just the final bit. And there you can see the B tension screw there is just sitting against the back of the rear derailleur hanger. Right, time to install the front derailleur, and the height setting for this one, because it's not a braze-on type, instead it's a band-on, it can be really easily done. Luckily, because of this sticker here that's been left on the Shimano component, so the gap between the top of the chainring and the actual mech cage here should be between 1 and 3 millimeters. Pretty precise, but the good news is, look, there's even like pretend chain teeth there, or chainring teeth rather, printed on, so you can almost line your own ones up. So we will place this one into position before clamping it up to between 7 and 9 Newton meters. You can of course take off that little sticker and you can just measure it by yourself. But there we are. Something like that. You need to bear in mind as well, some teeth are longer or bigger than others, so they have a higher profile because of course that aids the shifting. But this one, we're looking good. Fitting the brake calipers, nice and straightforward, providing of course you remember to put the right one on the right part of the bike. So this one here with the longer bolt, that's designed for the front fork because it has to get through the crown, whereas the rear one, that just simply goes through the little brake bridge there on the rear. Now something else to further throw a little bit of confusion into the mix is the actual retaining nuts here for the bolts. So the one that I was supplied with these brake calipers is really long, and that normally goes through the fork. Now, on most modern bikes, you've got yourself a nice beefed up carbon fork, but this one, it's an old, well, not so carbony one, is it? Let's face it, because we've got an aluminium one. So you can see there that it's really too long for it. So I'm going to reuse the old one. Keep this one in my spare parts box. Before fitting this little retaining nut into the recess of the fork, again, I'm just going to put a little bit of grease in there just to help remove them further on down the line. So then I'll push that retaining nut just into place here on the back of the fork crown, slide the washer over the bolt. You can see here it's almost like PTFE tape that they've pre-wrapped around. That's going to help the brake caliper also stay nice and snug inside of that nut. So we're going to put it on there, tighten it up to it's between 8 and 10 Newton meters. Obviously with it being a brake, you want to pay particular attention to that and make sure you get it tightened up correctly. Safety is paramount. Fitting the cassette onto the freewheel spline here of the cassette body is really nice and easy because there's normally, on all different free hub standards, one little spline here which differentiates from the rest in order for you to not misalign your cogs because they can only be fitted in one direction. Now these cogs, they've come pre-supplied to me on this little plastic body here, so I can line up the thin spline like so and I can just push everything in place. How good is that? Now of course if your sprockets haven't come on one of those plastic bits or if you're refitting them, then you want to make sure that if you've got a spline which is a little bit different, like this one here, really thin compared to the rest, that it matches up with the thinnest cutout there on the rear of the sprocket or on the sprocket. And the sprockets, they do tend to have any printing on them which is visible from the drive side, so you want to be able to read it whilst looking at it here. If you turn them around and try and put them the other direction, then your shifting is going to be compromised. Make sure that that lines up just like that before fitting the final one. Then before fitting the lock ring, have a look at it on there. 40 Newton meters is the actual torque setting. It sounds a lot, and sometimes when you're applying them onto a free hub with a torque wrench, you think to yourself, this seems like a lot, but it's absolutely fine. You don't want this to come loose. Just finger tighten it onto the actual body. You don't want to cross thread these because the lock ring tends to be made of steel and the free hub body made of aluminium. So if you've got yourself a little tool there, you can just do it and it will finger tighten. But obviously that's nowhere near enough. So that's where we need the reliable torque wrench. Right, time to fit the tyres and tubes. You remember I went for the Continental Grand Prix 4000s. So just make sure, get them nicely in position. Now they are directional, these tyres, so have a look on the side of them and look out for rotation. There we are, rotation, just there. Then a finishing touch is always to make sure, so rotation in this case was obviously in the rotation of travel. Line up the Grand Prix or maybe the Continental logo, whatever you want, with the actual valve hole there. It's a little pro touch. If you're going in the bike vault, it's always a bonus, isn't it? So you just want to place the tyres on and then fit your inner tubes in. Inflate them up to the recommended pressure before fitting them into the frame. So when putting in the wheel, you want to make sure it's pulled all the way back in the dropout, or alternatively, do it on the floor so you've actually got gravity to help do some of the work for you. But you can look as well either side of the tyre down there on the chain stage just to make sure it is nice and central. But generally you know, because you will feel the resistance in there when you're actually trying to pull it back. Now you've got the wheels in place, you can simply adjust the brake pads so they sit more in line with the actual rim surface there. It's going to make the next step of installing cables and such much easier. Of course, you are going to have to tighten these up as well to the manufacturer's recommended setting and make sure they're towed in if necessary. Manufacturer's recommended torque, by the way, on these is between 6 and 8 Newton meters. Time to fit the STI levers, and in order to actually tighten them up to the correct setting, what you need to do is actually peel back the brake lever hood. So you can see one here in its normal position, but you want to peel it back from the rear so that essentially you can reveal the actual tightening bolt in there. So like this, and then you can actually see the little bolt there that you need to tighten up. It's really hidden away, and many people can't often find that. So of course they are left and right specific, so you want to make sure they're on the right side of the bar. You simply put it on and then push it around into position before tightening. Now when you've got both of them on, you can get the bike out of the stand and then get a spirit level, making sure of course it is on a flat surface so they're perfectly in line with one another. The position where they go, well, that is entirely personal choice, so I can't offer any recommendations on that. Personally, I like to have it, well, kind of halfway around the actual curve here. It's starting to take quite a bit of shape now, isn't it? And beginning to, well, look like a bike after all. Now, I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty of how to cable up the bike as well as how to determine your chain length, because we do have some absolutely great videos describing and explaining those processes in very fine detail, and you can find a link to those in the description below. But keep watching, because I'm almost done, and then I've got to give it over to Mr. Opie to go out on the road with. Now, something I'm just going to point out before I go ahead and cable up the gearing on this bike. It's ultra important to put some grease on any barrel adjusters that thread into any bosses like this on a frame. The reason being, when it came to removing these, one of them was incredibly difficult, and sadly the bolt actually snapped off inside of the thread, and that was on the non-drive side here. So what did I have to do? I had to drill it out with a 4.8mm drill bit, leaving me 0.2 millimeters worth of thread to or material in there to actually cut a new thread in. Now I was doing that at home, and I was, well, beads of sweat coming down my forehead because I really don't like things like that happening. Now I do pray that when it comes to fitting the front gear cable in there, everything is going to be fine and dandy. Otherwise, I do have an alternative plan, and that is to route the STI cables so that the rear derailleur enters on the non-drive side, so down here on the left-hand side, because I've got a barrel adjuster on the rear derailleur to take up the indexing. And then I can run the front derailleur onto this side and fine-tune the actual front derailleur. But I don't want to have to do that. Tell you what, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? What do you reckon OP will think?
I think you need to summon him.
Good idea, I'll give him a call.
OP! OP! Oh, steady on, John.
All right, mate. What? How on earth did you...
I sneak up here between shoots. Anyway, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, you know, this and that. I've been working on a little project bike recently.
Is this another rebase special of yours? Bianchi without Bianchi logos?
No, it's not. Do you not recognise it?
Nope.
Remember that Trek I bought, the US Postal one? You
that whole thing, yeah.
Well,
the
this
worst
is...
bike I've ridden for a while.
Oh, right. Well, this is it.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, almost. It's the same frame and forks other than that, on the headset, but everything else is brand spanking new.
Blimey. It's an absolute transformation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's unrecognisable.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to go back out on it.
Who painted this then?
Oh, I did. Gave it a quick little spray. Yeah.
I'm impressed, John.
Good.
Do you want to put some bar tape on it for me, though?
Ah, yeah, well actually, that's actually why I was calling you up, or one of the reasons, because I need you to just go out for a quick spin just to make sure that the levers are in the right position, because I know you're a bit finicky about these things.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
I noticed you got the brakes on the right way around, though.
Yeah, I have, yeah. Front on the left, important that.
Oh, I cannot wait. So I get to ride this again.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see how much faster it's going to be, because, well, last time I could barely pedal, and I got wheel spin because the tyres were kind of past their best. But this looks dreamy. It looks really cool.
Well, I'm glad you like it, because there's been lots of hard work gone into this. And well, I don't know if you want me to put the original saddle back on or not, but...
No, I think this is more my kind of flavour.
All right, okay, cool. Right, well, that is it. The next time you see this baby out on the road, OP, he's going to be tackling Draycott again on it to try and beat his time, and well, really to see if we can turn a cheap bike into a super bike after all. So stay tuned for that one, and don't forget to like and share this video with your friends, and remember as well to subscribe to the channel. For 2 more great episodes building up this bike and such like, click on Mr. OP.